Center, where we are covering Colorado politics first on CBS News Colorado. I'm political specialist Shaun Boyd. Joining me are analysts, Republican Dick Wadhams, Democrat Mike Dino. The Denver runoff election is in the final stretch, and it took an interesting turn this past week, right here in the studio. Kelly Brough and Mike Johnston participated in our exclusive debate that I moderated, fielding questions about everything from housing to health equity, trash to transportation. As usual, there wasn't even a hint of animosity until they were given the opportunity to question each other. That's when the tone changed very quickly.
So we were asked at one point who has accepted money from the developer who did the Park Hill Golf Course. Neither of us raised our hand, but later it came out that you had received funding from that developer. You were asked about COVID check, and you said you led the work. Later on, the woman who led the work said on TV that she felt you were taking credit for work she and her team did. You mentioned on a stage, Michael, that you did full day K, that you led the work on that. But you were a candidate for U.S. Senate during that time when Polis was leading that work. You also said that for 8 years, I think you were a senator in our state, and you never sponsored a single piece of legislation on gun safety, but you said you've led on gun safety and taken the NRA on twice and won. My question is, how do we know when you're telling us the truth?
You opposed efforts to increase the minimum wage, not just once or twice or 3 times, but 4 different times, when what was being considered was moving the minimum wage from $11 an hour to $13 an hour. That would mean that a Denver resident working full-time, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, would make $26,000 a year. And I don't know why you think $26,000 a year would be too much to pay someone in Denver when we know that's not enough to live in Denver.
You know, it's interesting. Brough is accusing Johnston of taking credit for things that she says others have done the heavy lifting on. She doesn't want to take credit for things the chamber did when she was CEO.
Right.
Mike, are either of them convincing here?
Well, a couple things. I mean, as you point out, we're getting close to the election, less than 3 weeks away, and they really do need to draw some sharp contrasts at this point. And they're going at they're trying to weaken their strengths. Yeah. Dick was awesome at this when he ran campaigns. I mean, literally, it really was. He really was. You figure out what a candidate's strengths are,
right?
And you undermine them. And certainly for Kelly with Mike, you know, he touts a lot of stuff he did from a legislative and a community-based standpoint, and she is just trying to undermine those. And him the same with her CEO stature as the chamber head, and making it seem like, well, you know, it wasn't quite what it cracked up to be, and that's what's happening here, and that's what you do when you're at this point in the campaign.
So, Dick, do you think voters are tuned in that this will make a difference in the election?
Not yet. I don't think either one of the candidates have fatal problems in this area. But I am perplexed, Shaun, why Mike Johnston did not need to exaggerate his role on gun control. He's got a great record for Denver voters. Just lay it out there that he was a supporter of that legislation. Right. And Kelly, it just doesn't ring true to me that you can say, well, that was the Denver Chamber. I should not be held accountable for the positions. Right. So they both, I think, really kind of struck out on those questions the other night. I really do.
But the candidates also defended their plans to help those who are homeless. Johnston has promised 1,400 tiny homes and motel rooms on publicly owned land. But the city real estate division told me there's no suitable land available right now. Johnston insists he'll find land.
You know, the state land board has land in and around the city of Denver. We know there are churches and schools and others that have land they could swap with Denver for different opportunities. So what we would do is convene all of those partners to look at all the possible land assets we have, and then make sure we can find the right sites in the right locations to be able to get this done. And it's something that we've been able to do successfully. I know we can do again now.
So you don't have any sites identified right now?
No, I think the important part of this is that communities should be involved.
Now, Brough plans to partner with surrounding cities and expand safe outdoor spaces and shelters. But the city and the operators of those sites have told me they have room. Many people simply refuse to go. Brough says it's about having the right sites.
We don't have enough for women. We don't have enough for couples or families, people with pets or partners. So this is where I think we really have to focus on moving people together who are in community living together to the other location. And I do think we'll have a lot of success. But I also think we can't leave people to fend for themselves. And I think this is where there are people who maybe because they're intoxicated or high, I still think we have an obligation to get them to a safe location like Denver Cares or some of the supports and services we have available.
Yeah. Dick, I'm thinking the city is already doing tiny homes, motel rooms, safe outdoor spaces. These are not new ideas, and neither of these candidates have identified a new guaranteed revenue stream to pay for more of these, right? So what happens if they don't deliver on these right away?
Well, they both have embraced such aggressive plans for the homeless that if there's not significant progress after the full term, they're in trouble. There's no doubt about that. So, you know, I think this goes back to what Mayor Mike Hoffman of Aurora found when he went on the streets with the homeless. There is a certain part of the homeless population that wants to be there. They don't want to go anywhere else. They want to have access to their alcohol and drugs and just leave us alone. We want to be on the streets. Now, I don't think that's a good idea. In fact, I think it's horrible. But some of these people, I don't know what you do with them.
Well, and Kelly, you heard her say,
Yes.
you know, I mean, if I have to, I'm going to arrest them. We're going to do involuntary commitments
Yes.
on some of them. But then Johnston attacks her for that, too.
Right. And I think, frankly, I have a feeling that most of the Denver voters are going to side with her because they're just tired of it. And they're seeing the crime. And I think this is a strength of Kelly's right now.
You know, Mike, you work with local governments. The projects that they've identified are not quick and easy, right?
No, I mean, you know, I was watching the Los Angeles mayor's race that took place earlier this year, and the candidate who lost said he was going to house 30,000 homeless in 300 days. Now, we haven't heard a boast like that yet,
Wow.
but they are making it seem like, you know, this is easier than, you know, than it seems.
Yeah, the city's just not doing enough.
Yeah,
It's not looking hard enough.
But Kelly did point out that the city is spending $250 million a year, and we just saw the plan come out yesterday, 1,800 units for that amount.
Right.
And that's a drop in the bucket of getting more affordability. You know, the underlying problem is we are unaffordable. We just got ranked as the 99th most livable city. We dropped from #1 a few years ago to number 99. We barely stayed in the top 100. Why? Because affordability.
Right.
People can't afford to live here, and that is an underlying problem that really exacerbates the homeless situation.
Yeah, I was shocked when I talked to the Department of Housing Stability, and they told me that it's over $300,000 per unit of income-restricted
Yes.
housing for them to develop. I
Right.
mean, this is not a cheap proposition. This is not going to be easy to fix, and I think both of them kind of make it seem like, you know, you just need to do more. You need to try harder.
Right.
Well, it didn't take 4 years to get here. So if you become mayor on July 17th, it's going to take more than 4 years to get out of it.
Right. Rising crime, including auto theft. Last year, Aurora passed an ordinance requiring mandatory jail time for auto thieves. That city has seen a drop in thefts every month since then. I asked Brough and Johnston if they would consider a similar approach in Denver. Johnston said he would first try hiring more officers and mental health workers.
Because right now, what we know, when I've done ride-alongs with officers and talked to them, is they'll say, and many times, the majority of the calls they're getting are to respond to encampments where they maybe can't be as helpful, and a mental health worker would be better. And that's taking their time away from the places where we really need them on property crimes and violent crimes. So it's a matter of both staffing up and then deploying the right person to the right problem at the right time.
I actually agree that we have to rethink the penalties for these kinds of issues, but I also think technology is helping us get ahead as well. In the ride-along I was on, the officer typically an officer keys in the license plate to try to identify stolen vehicles. This had technology that just read the plates as we drove along, way more efficient. We could identify way more cars and start to have follow-up much faster. I think the combination of those kind of approaches could really help.
I noted in the debate that Brough is endorsed by the Police Protective Association. Johnston, meanwhile, is endorsed by some former mayoral candidates who are more on the defund the police side. So, Mike, I got to wonder, where are voters at?
Well, listen, I wish a mental health person could have retrieved my catalytic converter. I mean, you know, it just speaks, I mean, in a serious manner, it speaks to long-term challenges of sorting this out. But we've had some good news. The state has seen a significant decrease in the first 3 months as it relates to car theft. I mean, Aurora probably, you talked about it, seeing that, but we are seeing the trend go in the right direction. Right. But it takes policing to do that, and it takes some really good crime solving. Obviously, the underlying issues are more long-term, and that's what Mike's speaking to.
Right. Dick, these endorsements that Mike has, do they, and even Kelly, do they impact, do you think, this election?
Oh, I do. I do think these are significant. And there is a clear divide between these two candidates. I mean, when you have the police on Kelly's side and you've got the Democratic Socialists on Mike's side, I think that now, the Denver electorate, who knows where they're at, but I think that is a clear delineation to me.
It's interesting. We didn't talk about Calderon's endorsement, but boy, talk about a lackluster endorsement, right? A harm reduction endorsement, she called it, right?
Right.
So do her voters even follow and vote for Johnston?
Well, she has a following. I mean, she finished a very close third. And by the way, imagine the fact that crime will decline when you put people in jail who commit the crimes. That is a novel approach. And what I don't understand is why these two candidates, who are both smart people, they both have a hard time grasping that. Like, put the guy in jail who stole the car. And they want to do everything but do that. I just don't get it.
I think it speaks to how progressive Denver is.
Well, and we've talked about that throughout the whole year on where it's gone to.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I also asked candidates about the influx of migrants into Denver and the strain that is putting on the city's budget.
I would figure out how we can partner with the various agencies around the state and the country that are facing this challenge. We know 75–80% of the migrants who are coming to Denver are not trying to get to Denver. They're actually trying to get to someplace else, and they're a way station here along the way. We ought to be able to coordinate better with the places where they're starting to be able to help redirect them to a final destination rather than a stayover. I also think we have to take this on as a city. This is not just the city of Denver's obligation. I know we have faith communities, we have nonprofits, we have people in all various roles in the city that would want to do their part.
People who are here seeking asylum, and we know it's going to take at least 18 months, we need to let them work. And my priority would be help them get to work so that we don't have this challenge of the city taking it on. And then with regard to the city's budget, about 70% of the city's budget is personnel, people. So every single decision you make when it comes to prioritizing this is going to have to look at what are the services that we need to keep and what are the services that we make a lower priority. I'm not going to talk about that today because that's pretty disruptive to the city team.
After the debate, we learned Denver is now one of the cities Texas Governor Greg Abbott will be busing migrants. He sent the first group on Thursday saying, quote, until the president and his administration step up and fulfill their constitutional duty to secure the border, the state of Texas will continue busing migrants to self-declared sanctuary cities like Denver to provide much-needed relief to our small border towns. So Dick Hancock, he continues to embrace the sanctuary city label, and he told the Denver Gazette, that the government still has an obligation to provide funding, to care for all these migrants in Denver. So I think your thoughts, should the government only help those non-sanctuary cities?
No, and listen, Hancock is right. The federal government does need to help cities, but when Denver, with great fanfare, declared itself a sanctuary city, you can't help but think about that and what he's complaining about today and saying Denver really didn't mean those things when they announced the sanctuary city, because they never thought they were going to be have to actually perform in that role, and it speaks of hypocrisy to me. But no, listen, Denver's got a problem. The federal government needs to help these cities because it is a national problem.
How big of an issue is this going to be for the next mayor, really?
Well, it's a big issue. I don't remember the great fanfare that we were declared a sanctuary city.
I do.
But
they did put that sign up.
I think
we love immigrants.
That's right.
Yeah, but I do think certainly people use it in a political way. Mayor Hancock hasn't been mentioned by the two candidates, even in the general election by the other ones to a great degree.
Right.
They
never said his name.
So I want to say I think he's doing a really good job. His chief of staff and his deputy chief of staff, Alan Salazar and Emmett Dreyer, are working around the clock. They had 500 migrants over at the Auraria campus, and they are really trying to care for them. I mean, what are you going
Right.
to do?
Right.
Say, ship the bus somewhere else? And so they are trying to deal with it. But Dick's right. The federal government has to take more responsibility. The president has sent 15 troops down to the border. The number of migrants is about half of what they predicted, so it isn't flowing through as much as they are. And Dick and I were talking about this before the meeting. Other countries got to manage their countries better, because really the problem is people don't want to live there and they want to live here, and we have a heck of a time keeping them from coming in.
And I'll say one more good thing about Mayor Hancock. At least he did not do what the mayor of New York did, which to kick the kids out of school gymnasiums and put in migrants, which is what happened. Now he's backed off that, but at least Hancock